The Nike Zoom Fly 5s. Oh boy, where do I even begin? These are like Nike's ugly stepchild that they were just so lazy on the R&D that they were just like, oh crap, let me just put something out for the fact of putting something out. Like, these aren't even good walking shoes. That's how much I just hate these shoes. But yeah, whatever. I guess we'll review it. Give you my thoughts today. What's going on, guys? We are back with another episode. Today we are talking about the Nike Zoom Fly 5s. As you can tell by the beginning, you probably already know the direction this video is going in, just given the already rant of just hatred toward these shoes. I dubbed them the lazy Nike R&D ugly stepchild shoe, just because I feel like Nike, I don't know where the thought process was in making this shoe. I don't understand where the shoe fits in. I don't understand the marketing of the shoe. I don't necessarily get why they even needed to introduce this shoe into the lineup. But I mean, I guess that's why we're here, right? We're gonna talk about it all today. We're gonna talk about the Zoom Fly 5s, review them, give you my personal and honest thoughts about this particular shoe. And we'll just run through it, starting off with the specs, I guess. God, I don't even know where to begin, honestly. This shoe just sucks. This shoe sucks. If anyone's watching this and you want to end the video now, like, just know this shoe is god awful for what it was intended to be designed for and its intended purpose of where it found itself in, I guess, running shoe lineups and the purpose of this particular shoe. I don't think this shoe is good at any particular thing, let's be honest, but I guess we'll dive into that right now. So let's talk about it. Just diving into the specs, let's talk about that. These are the Nike Zoom Fly 5s in a men's size 10.5. According to Nike's website, the men's size 10 comes in at 314 grams, so I'm assuming 10.5, which I didn't use my scale today. Should have used the scale. Apologies about that. I'll have the correct weight in the description below. Anyways, I'm assuming it'll be around 320, 330 grams. So it is a bit on the heavier side. I call it the chunky boys just because, good God, I mean, if you feel these in your hand, they are just heavy, useless, recycled ZoomX pieces of crap. Let's just call it what it is. It has a 10mm drop. Pricing right now, you can get them on Nike's website, Nike stores, for retail of $170 US, which is absurdly overpriced for what you actually get from this shoe. But we'll dive into that more in here in just a little bit. As of the recording of this video, I have been seeing these on Nike's online store on sale for about 30% off, going for about $119 depending on the colorway. I actually found these at the Nike outlet, thank God, for about $70, give or take. I mean, even looking back at spending $70, I thought I was getting a steal for these just based on previous reviews and what I've heard about these shoes before. But definitely think they're, I mean, I don't even think they're worth $50. If I'm being real. But anyways, what else about these? I mean, they have a slight rocker per se in the forefoot. Yeah, it's painful making this review because there's just so many cons and negatives about this shoe that I don't know if I have any pros. Like anything positive or nice to say about these shoes other than the fact that maybe I got them for less than half off. Like that might be the only saving grace here, and I think even paying more than half price for the shoe was overpaying for the shoe. So take that into consideration, take that into mind as we go through the rest of this review here. But let's dive into the materials and the foam. Nike, according to the website, they have a kind of a mesh, engineered mesh type of upper that they put onto the shoe. You can tell, you know, they used a couple different colors and different materials that are built into the mesh right underneath. Again, these are marketed for that in-between race day slash your daily, I guess, performance trainer, because they do have a full-length carbon plate in there. But I mean, based on the tongue, the inside, the heel cup, everything like that, all the materials used, it definitely does look more like a daily trainer type of a setup, more than, you know, your typical race day, minimalistic, you know, more bare bones type of training shoe or marathon training shoe, prep shoe, whatever it is that you want to call it. Again, these were supposed to be that in-between shoe between race day and that fast-paced training, but given the weight, given the build, and everything that they put into the shoe, definitely veered far off from the intended goal. So again, that's why I'm like, I don't really know where the shoe fits in, because A, it's heavy, the stack height is, you know, about average for what you're seeing these days. From like the Hokas, the Sauconys, the Ons and stuff like that. Everyone seems to be getting max and max and max more stack added to their shoes. But with more stack comes more weight. So why Nike? Why? I mean, you could have made it in between like a Streak Fly and the Nike Zoom Fly 5 to make it that in between, you know, pacer, racer, trainer shoe. But I mean, this is even heavier than like a Hoka Bondi 8. Like, this is just a brick. Like, I don't know. I mean, they do have some cutouts in the upper, you know, again, it's a mesh material, so it should typically be breathable from what you expect mesh to be. But again, given the other materials that they have layered underneath the mesh, it makes it a pretty hot shoe. I'm in Texas. I ran in these during the summertime, averaging about, you know, lower 80s to high 90s, sometimes reaching hundreds. So, I mean, I will say my scenario, my experience is a little bit different than maybe some other people living in different geographies around the world, but my feet were hot as hell. Like, I came out sweating, just precipitating like crazy. Didn't cause any blisters, thank God. I had the right socks on at the time, but it just, not a great shoe. Nike, shame on you for even releasing these at the price point that y'all did. Just saying. Anyways, the tongue, I guess, is semi-gusseted, if you want to call it that. It's built into the forefoot here, not necessarily tied down on left or right side of the shoe. Laces, I mean, nothing to brag about, but again, nothing to complain about, if that makes sense. So, I mean, solid laces, they hold, they don't get loose or you know, they're not too stretchy and bouncy like some other laces that are out there where they have a lot more give. These, you know, seem to tie down and lock down pretty solidly. The foam, and this is the interesting part, the foam is marketed and using Zoom X, which you see in the Vaporflies, the Alpha Flies, Streak Flies, a couple other models out there, I believe. And, you know, based on everything people have said about that foam, it's very pliable, it's very soft and cushiony, it's almost like marshmallowy, but it doesn't have that long durability overall. This particular shoe is utilizing recycled Zoom X. So it is worlds apart and different from the real premium Zoom X foam that you see in the Alpha Flies, the Zoom Flies, etc. and it just makes for a very dead, unfun, no energy return type of ride. And again, on top of that being heavy, clunky, and just overheating my foot, it's just not enjoyable. But again, we'll get into that with the first round impressions coming up here. Just thought I had to say that and make it a clear point that this foam sucks. I mean, look at it. It's just hard. It's firm, it's not fun, and every time I plant and take another stride, it feels like my foot is just dying in the ground. Like, just put me in the grave already. I hate these shoes. I hate them. But let's continue. Anyways, I guess the second positive note about these shoes, outside of, you know, getting them for less than half the price of retail, is the durability. I mean, look at this sole. It has a pretty thick layer of rubber, some great coverage across the shoe itself, except for, you know, the midsection there. So, I mean, I will say, you know, kudos to Nike for putting a substantial amount of rubber tread on the bottom of the shoe compared to some other trainers, Pacers, race day shoes that are out there where it's just this very fine, thin layer of rubber, except for Adidas and the Continental. That stuff is amazing. But then again, it's just like, it's lazy, you know? It's like, this is what I expected from something as a daily training type of up-tempo pace shoe. So it's honestly quite confusing, again, where the shoe fits in, you know, how they designed it, the materials that they used, and this is push barriers, break limits. Like, really, Nike? You could, like, for this shoe, you're not breaking or pushing any limits in this shoe. Like, let's be honest. It's like wearing a weighted 45-pound weight on your feet after a hard workout, just dragging yourself along. Man. Anyways, good traction, good rubber on the bottom. Can't really knock Nike for that, even though I do think, again, this is the ugly stepchild that just hasn't found its place in the family, AKA hasn't found its place in the lineup. Yeah. So other materials that are in here, again, we have a full length carbon plate in the shoe itself. Generally, from my experience, having the Saucony Endorphin 4s, the Adios Pro 3s, what other ones do I have carbon plates in? I'm trying to see what other shoes. I think those are the only two shoes that I really have that have carbon plates or any type of plate in them. You know, generally with the carbon plate, you're expected a little more stability because it's in between and squishing that, you know, pretty pliable race day foam. So it'll give you more of that stability as well as that snap and propulsion that you expect from a race day or a high pace type of trainer. The Zoomfly 5s, non-existent. Like, there's a plate in there, you can definitely feel the plate that's in there. You know, if you try to bend these shoes, it's hard, but the plate does absolutely nothing, which is, again, why I'm so confused about where this shoe is actually going to benefit runners. So, you know, take that into consideration. Again, this is a plated shoe, but it is marketed for those daily training miles in between race day and in between, you know, your long, easy runs. So for the more up-tempo, fast-paced, maybe even track style workouts, if you wanna be able to use it for that. But again, coming back to the reality of where the shoe is, the specs and the details, I mean, it's heavy. It's recycled ZoomX foam, so you don't get the fun, bouncy, you know, lightweight, fun experience that you do in the Alpha Flies or the Zoom Flies. Even the Streak Flies, although I won't put the Streak Flies in that category just because I bottom out in those shoes. When I tried them on at the Nike store, there was just not enough foam, and it just, with my weight, my height maybe, it just compressed it down to the point where I was just feeling like I'm walking on concrete. Like, if you wanted to make a track shoe, like that would be perfect for a track shoe. I don't really understand why they marketed for a 5K fast-paced shoe, because there's just barely any ZoomX foam in the forefoot. But anyways, getting off subject there, back to the Nike Zoom Fly 5s. We're gonna talk now about the fit and feel. All right, so the fit and feel for the Nike Zoom Fly 5s, pretty standard. If you are a Nike fanboy, if you are a Nike connoisseur, if you have worn any type of Nike shoes in the past, you know for the most part that Nike runs pretty narrow across their lineup. That can be lifestyle shoes, that can be running shoes, that can be even some of their cleats that they've produced. And with that being said, I mean, I tend to have a pretty normal to a little bit wider of a foot, but these honestly felt pretty solid. Again, these are a little bit bigger than what I normally would purchase. These were a 10.5, which I got about a thumb length width in between the toe and the front. I generally wear a 10, so for any consolation, if that gives anybody any help, size 10 is usually about 3/4 of a thumb to about half a thumb length, which I think for me works perfect. Some people like a little bit more room, some people like a little bit less. I'm kind of in that in between where I don't want too much room for where it feels sloppy and it feels too big, but I also don't want it too small where it feels too tight and my big toes, you know, touching the front of the shoe. Fit wise, didn't have really any issues, except I did need to put a runner's knot lace down on there. Again, just because it is slightly a little bit too long for my feet. So I did get a little bit of a slippage on the heel there. Not too much material around the heel, as you can see. So there's not like a cushion or something that'll really suck your heel in and lock it down really. So you're just depending on the friction of your socks really and the inner like felt material or whatever they put on this particular shoe. Trying it on, putting it on feet for the first time, I will say these were the shoes that I purchased when I first got into running again. And for me, I felt, you know, because I knew I was a mid to forefoot strike runner, I felt that these were kind of the perfect balance when I tried them on at the store, that it would give me that propulsion, because when you do put them on, you feel a pretty intense bulge from the forefoot of this curve right here. Especially when you land and start walking in them, you'll feel that stride of just, oh, okay, there's that bulge, there's that pop, there's that, you know, little lift rocker, whatever you want to call it, but without actually having a rocker or propulsive feeling, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to best describe how these shoes feel, which at first I thought they were comfy, they were squishy. That was before I tried the Sauconys, before I tried the Adidas Lightstrike Pro Foam, and a couple others like the Asics Superblast 2s. So, you know, looking back, I was naive in the sense that I thought this was a good foam, that this would give me a good energy, bounce, return rate. But after having more experience with other shoes, I mean, these, like I said at the beginning of the video, are just, the foam's dead. Like there's no energy. It just kind of just absorbs your energy as you take steps, as you take strides. And it doesn't seem to give you any type of support or help in terms of having that propulsive feeling. You know, on the website, Nike says that it does have a little bit of a rocker, which, you know, looking at this, you can definitely rock a little bit forward. But does it actually make you want to take that next step? In my opinion, no. I think it just dies on stride. It doesn't make you want to go faster. It doesn't make you want to go slower. It just makes you want to get out of the shoe. And I'll talk more about that here next, because when I was walking in these shoes in particular, every time I would stride and step down, my heel in this section would roll forward or roll inwards. And I think that's because the density of the foam and maybe the makeup, maybe I have a one-off experience that this was a defective shoe. I don't know. But between the left and the right shoe, every time I would step down towards the heel, it would roll inwards and cause massive knee pain, as well as just a weird ankle roll. So it felt like up here was great until I started getting to about that mid-foot back heel area. It would just dip and the foam felt like it would just give out. Like there was no support, it was too soft. Like if I was looking back at it, this is the real ZoomX area, fake ZoomX area. Again, real ZoomX because of how squishy and soft and like non-supportive it was, supporting my feet, my ankle, my knee, etc., my legs. And here is like the most dense, solid platform you could get. So it's very weird in terms of like consistency of the foam throughout the shoe itself. Again, it could be an anomaly. I could have gotten that one defective shoe. These were the only pair at the outlets at the time. So I know sometimes Nike puts out grade A, grade B style shoes that don't make the proper cut to make it to the full retail Nike stores because, A, they have defects when manufacturing these types of things. So take that for what it is. I just wanted to name that because running in these and walking in these just brought unbelievable uncomfortability and knee pain because of that inflection. I talked about this in my last Asics Superblast 2 video when I mentioned the Zoom Fly 5s. They just, every time you plant on the heel, it just wants to roll your heel inward and it causes leg inflection and the knee to just, not a good feeling. Not a good feeling at all. Let's talk about the insole. I mean, insole is nothing special. I feel like most of the insoles that, these manufacturers make are just your bare bones minimum, just, whatever it is. It's stuck in there. It's completely glued in there. But, it's thin enough, in my opinion, to where if you wanted to put a minimal to, medium size thickness insole of your choice in there, you could probably get away with it just because this insole in here right now is pretty thin for the most part. But I mean, that's typical standard across, most of the shoes that you get. The insole is not going to be amazing. The only annoyance out there with insoles, I guess, are the Hokas because they have that kind of built-in arch support, I guess you want to call it that. Stability-wise, again, I'll go back to, yes, it was stable for the most part. They did try to widen up the heel area a bit. You can tell by the front, the forefoot sides, they bulge out a bit for more of that planted feel, as well as, just not having such a narrow landing platform. But I mean, stability was there outside of, again, the heel wobbliness when I would walk and run in these. Just had that weird inflection, just the foam giving out on that back end area. And I just can't figure out why, because I mean, it's so thick, but it's so just dense of a foam that, unlike the real ZoomX foam out there where you can literally just squish it with 2 fingers, I mean, this takes some substantial force. So, I mean, expecting that, given the density of this foam, you would have more support, more of a planted, solid foundation of a feel on foot, but it's just the total opposite for some reason. So Nike R&D, do better, guys. This is a terrible shoe. So next coming up, we'll talk about the first run impressions. All right, so first run impressions. When I got these shoes, I took them out the next day for a 5K. So 3 mile, 3 point something mile run. And I immediately understood why, and this solidifies my hate for these shoes, but I definitely understood why I regretted my purchase. They just felt like I was dragging a parachute behind me. If you've ever done a workout with a parachute or some resistance force behind you, you can tell that you just, whatever pace, whatever effort you're trying to put in, you're just not reaping that benefit. And I felt exactly the same with these particular shoes because They gave me no energy return, no matter how much I dug in or just pushed off. The plate was utterly useless, like utterly useless in terms of any type of energy, any type of propulsion. I guess the only benefit would be the thickness of this forefoot, having this slight rocker in there. I could find a high toe push off that would slightly benefit, wanting to continue having that roll feeling of the next step. But I mean, it just continues with the bad news of these shoes. I'm sorry. I mean, I was just feeling all types of knee pain, shin pain, hip pain, to the point where I just stopped probably about 1.5 miles, almost 2 miles into the run. And I was just like, is it me? Am I tired? Is it my body, my legs maybe not used to these particular shoes? Or is it the shoes itself? So I took them off, relaced them, refitted everything, threw down a runner's knot, because initially I didn't have a runner's knot, and I noticed some heel slipping started to take place. So solidified my foundation, picked up the run again around that 1.5, 2 mile mark to finish off the last, mile, a little over a mile for the total 5K 3 mile run. And it just kept getting worse and worse. There's some shoes out there that you wear, there's a break-in period. There's times, throughout the later half of your miles or your workout, your body starts to adapt and kind of get used to the shoe. But for me, even taking these out after that initial first 5K 3 mile run for another 5K 3 mile run, my body just kept feeling worse and worse and worse every time I put these shoes on. To the point where I even started using these as walking, grocery, kind of everyday shoes, and the knee pain that I got from just having the instability of this heel was just god awful. Like I don't think I've put these shoes on since I bought them, which is around May. Actually, that's a lie. I took them out one more time to give it a final, like, do I really hate these shoes type of evaluation. And during that run, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. And so yes, for anyone that's wondering, it did solidify my hatred for the shoes even more. And I just don't understand where these shoes fit in. I wish I could say, they were great at this or that, but it's just, there's so many negatives and so many cons about these shoes that I just don't have anything really good to say about them, which is unfortunate because I'm such a Nike fanboy. I love Nike, everything, Jordans, their soccer cleats, even some of the hiking shoes that they've released. And these just fell so off the mark for what its intended purpose was for and who they were marketing it to, that I just feel like these just deserve to go in the trash, honestly. Like they're just hot garbage, hot garbage. So first run impressions, I mean, it wasn't great. It hurt my body, it hurt my legs, it hurt my knees, it hurt everything. Took them on 2 individual 5K runs at my kind of slow, normal recovery pace just to kind of see where these shoes fit in. And then I took them for an up-tempo pace workout, and there just wasn't a sweet spot for these shoes at all. I mean, between slow tempo, fast tempo, walking around, I mean, what else can I use these shoes for besides maybe a wall ornament? I don't know, maybe these will go up on my wall, but then I don't want to showcase them on my wall because I don't like these shoes. So really, these are just probably going in the garbage or sitting in my closet somewhere. Or unless someone really loves these and wants to buy them, I might as well just give them away for free. It's just have fun, good luck, try these shoes, they suck. You can blame Nike R&D for their lazy incompetence of just not understanding runners' needs maybe in this particular tier of shoe. ZoomX, Alpha Flies, Vaporflies, all that stuff, obviously they know who their market is for, the runners, the high-end marathon runners, the half marathoners, blah, 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 the competition athletes of the world. But these shoes are just, they just have no place anywhere really. They're just kind of floating about. Nike was just like, yeah, let's just put out a shoe because, you know, Adidas and Saucony and all these other companies are putting out shoes that are in between race day and in between your daily trainer type of shoe for more, you know, up-tempo, fast-paced workout that has a plate in it, but they just suck. Let's move on to who these shoes are for and what type of runs, I guess, are best to run in these. We'll talk about that. Why not? All right, so who are these shoes for and what type of runs are they best suited for? I will read you an excerpt directly from Nike's website as to who these are marketed for. And I quote, "Bridging the gap between your weekend training run and race day in a durable design that can be deployed not just at the starting line of your favorite race, but in the days and months after your conquest." Now let that sink in for a minute. So as a marathon, half marathon, race day prep shoe, I guess is what I'm understanding that these shoes are marketed for, yet all the details on paper and in reality is the total opposite end of the spectrum. Like if I were looking at these and I ran in these, I would think, okay, a crap daily trainer. Like I tried to pick up the pace in these, cannot go fast. Why? Because they feel like a ton of bricks on your feet, let alone the unbreathableness of the shoe with all the sweat density compiling inside the foot just makes it for an overall just worse experience as you continue to go through your miles. Like that's basically the rundown of it. What type of runs are these shoes designed for? Well, again, according to Nike, these are for the starting line of your favorite race, but in the days and months after your conquest. So fast-paced, training, up-tempo, threshold maybe, type of runs. But again, I mean, maybe I'm not strong enough or patient enough to give these shoes the full evaluation, but I mean, just trying to run quickly in these is like, it's like having handcuffs around your ankles. Like you just can't get anywhere quickly or efficiently. On top of that, the pain it causes, you know, just the weird awkwardness of how this shoe feels when you walk and run in it is from front to back. It's just very bizarre. And again, I call it the ugly stepchild of the Nike R&D team for a reason, because it's like they Frankensteined this project. They were like, oh, okay, so what pieces can we take from some of our best and some of our worst shoes in our lineup and combine them together to create this Zoom Fly 5? Like that's, in my opinion and in my mind, basically what they did. It's like, oh, let's use ZoomX from the Nike Alpha Flies and Vapor Flies that are, you know, amazing and hold world records. But let's use a recycled version. Why? Because we're eco-friendly, but also that equates to crappier foam and a terrible experience overall for runners. Also, let's use, you know, thin, breathable materials that don't actually breathe. And let's use a carbon plate that actually doesn't help propulse or give any type of energy return to help the runner for those longer distances and snappier, faster, quick paces. So it just, I know it sounds like I'm ragging on Nike, and I am, and like I feel like this shoe is, A, for the price and for the value, just unbelievably terrible. It's just like, A, why did I buy these? B, why did they create these? And C, they're still selling these somehow, you know? And of all the reviews that I've seen online from other folks on Reddit, social media, blah, 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 like there's a small percentage of people that like these, but the people that do like these say these wouldn't be the shoe they would go to or choose out of a lineup for a daily training type of shoe or a faster paced shoe. Like this is just a shoe that if they had sitting around and they haven't used them in a while, or you know, maybe they're retiring some other shoes that have, you know, a lot of high mileage, this would be a shoe that they would, you know, eventually come back to as a placeholder, but not necessarily the first, second, third, fourth, maybe fifth choice. I don't know. But then there's, you know, a majority of other people in the bucket that I'm in that just are A, confused about this shoe, and B, just there's nothing good about this shoe that it does. Again, I can't even walk in these daily because they're just not comfortable in terms of like causing knee pain. Yeah, they have a thick stack and a dense foam and, you know, ZoomX recycled materials, but I mean, where is that really gonna take us at the end of the day? Like, if I'm gonna use these for walking, I want them to be comfortable, supportive all day. If I'm gonna use this for running, I want it to be A, comfortable, supportive, not causing issues for my ankles or my knees, and also giving me more energy return. So all of those things just don't make sense in terms of what actually the thought process was when approaching a shoe like the Zoom Fly, and especially with being marketed for faster paces, that in between race day and finishing that conquest for, you know, your next training block, your next half marathon, your next marathon training block. This would be the shoe that Nike is pointing you towards, but it's not giving you any type of fun. It's not a good experience. It's not fun. It's not beneficial, at least for my feet, my legs. People are saying the same thing. And I think that's why the Nike Zoom Fly 6s, from all the prototype images and news that I've seen about those, are drastically different. I mean, they look like Vaporflies. Alpha Flies had a little, you know, stepchild that was actually cool and cute, and people wanted to actually like hug and kiss, versus this is the ugly stepchild that no one pays attention to and was just like, what the hell do I do with these? So anyways, enough ragging on Nike. I think by now you understand, you know, what these shoes are good for, what they're not, my personal opinions on them, and my outlook on why I hate these shoes so much. Because again, they're just useless. I can't use them for anything. Maybe just decorations around the house now. I don't know, we'll see. Let's move into the final thoughts and wrap this up. All right, final thoughts on the Nike Zoom Fly 5s. If you couldn't tell by the beginning, middle, and towards the end of this video already, my dislike for this shoe is above a 10 out of 10. It's probably a 20 out of 10. Again, I didn't want to make this a negative or a bad video to just rag on Nike, but again, like, you have to question, this is a $170 shoe and there just doesn't seem to be any value that the shoe is giving the runners or the end users in terms of how the shoe was marketed and designed. It was marketed and designed for faster paces. It was designed for in between race day and training for your next, you know, big race. It was supposed to help you push limits and break barriers. It's supposed to give you a feel for some of their top higher end premium ZoomX shoes like Vaporflies and the Alpha Flies. And it just is confusing because there's just no real placement in where I see this shoe fitting into anyone's rotation, really. Because of the weight, because of many other factors, given the breathability, the plate even, there's just really no benefit for the runner using these shoes outside of maybe just building up feet strength. I don't even know, because it has a carbon plate in there, but the carbon plate is useless. You usually want to use a non-plated shoe to build the foot strength and, you know, the power through your legs and all that stuff without a plate in the shoe. But even having a plate in the shoe, I feel like I can't even reap the benefits of strengthening my feet or my legs or whatever. You know, again, not sure if this is just a one-off flaw for the particular pair that I got. Other people's experiences, again, for the most part, have said they enjoy the shoe, but it's not their first choice. Again, if it's something that's sitting around and they need to pull a shoe out for, you know, a particular training day or a particular workout, this is a shoe that they might gravitate towards out of their, other shoes in the rotation. But I mean, for me, having the Adidas SL2 trainers, the Hoka Mach 5 trainers, the Asics Superblast 2s, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4s, the Adidas Adios Pro 3s. What other shoes do I have? I can't remember at the moment. A couple others in there. I mean, these just have no place in my lineup, no place in my daily rotation, no place in even a walking shoe. So take it for what it's worth. I mean, some people might like these. If you want to try them on in the store, go ahead. You can, again, find them at the Nike outlets, probably for around $70 right now. I think that's how much I paid for these, if I remember correctly. I've heard some folks saying in their local Nike outlets, they've seen them for about that price as well, so $60 to $70. You can find them online at Nike.com for 119. Specific colorways are on sale. I mean, honestly, if you can't get them for half off at the outlets, that's probably at most, the max amount of money that I would spend on these shoes. Just if you have that curious mind and curious heart that you want to give these a shot. I mean, I do like the colorway. Colorway is fine. I think that's probably what attracted me most to these shoes was the colorway. Outside of also knowing that they had a plate in them before I bought them, but then after trying them on, again, I just not the shoe for me. And I bring that back to the Nike R&D team because it's like they have scripture that says one thing in terms of how they're marketing this shoe, but then the final design and the final product is the complete polar opposite of it. So either the Nike R&D team needs to do better and put out more quality products that actually benefit the runner and the category of shoe that this is supposed to fit into, or just change your marketing literature, honestly. Like, it's not that hard. Literature versus building a shoe, I think literature is a little easier to edit and facilitate than putting countless hours, design, and money into coming out with a shoe that's completely worthless. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This is my review of the Nike Zoom Fly 5s. Again, leave a comment, subscribe, like, follow on the social media. This is the review of the Nike Zoom Fly 5s. Gary is out. No more bragging, or excuse me, no more ragging Nike anymore. Unless they come out with another crap product, which, Nike seems to be doing a lot as of late. But luckily with the firing of John Donahue, who? Exactly, no more. They're bringing back the Nike OGs. New CEO, they're bringing back the creative directors, the designers from years past. So excited to see the new direction of Nike. Hopefully that will bleed into the Nike running department and come out with better shoes. Not necessarily colors or looks, but just overall function. I think a lot of people get hung up on the aesthetics of running shoes. Your thicker stack, your bulkier outsole, etc. So not so much, aesthetics, even though aesthetics are a big part of why I'm a shoe collector and a shoe reviewer. But at the end of the day, we have a common purpose in mind, which is to improve our performance, improve our times, improve our running experience. So, I mean, as much as it pains me to say it, I'd rather have the technology advancements in terms of making this a better performance and performing shoe and having a better experience in that sense, rather than paying so much attention to the aesthetics, the colors, the design of the shoe, etc. So, obviously, in the best of both worlds, aesthetics and functionality will intertwine and come out to hopefully create a baby prettier and more valuable than this piece of crap. But we'll see what happens. Nike's kind of on a rebirth, if you want to call it that. So hopefully that starts bleeding into all the departments, not only Nike lifestyle, but Nike running, Nike basketball, soccer, blah, 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 all the different departments that Nike has in terms of putting out better products for the end users and us, the consumers, at the end of the day, who are forking out their hard-earned money for crap like this. So anyways, long-winded outro. Gary's out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.